guys, welcome back. Today we're doing something a little bit different and we're not doing a makeup tutorial, but we're going to actually talk about brushes instead and what different kinds of brushes are used for. So beside me I have all of my main ride or die most important brushes that I always use no matter what kind of look I'm going for. Whether it's a smoky eye or a cut crease or something just really simple, these are my go-to brushes that I will need. So for foundation brushes, I have two that I always reach for, but you can find them literally in any makeup brush set. They'll always have brushes like this. So these are synthetic hair brushes. So synthetic hair is different from a natural hair, like you'll be able to feel the difference. The synthetic hair is usually a lot more densely packed and it feels more like silky smooth as opposed to like a natural hair brush, which will feel more like actual hair. This is the sort of foundation brush that you would go for if you want that full coverage really quick, because the bristles are packed so densely that you can stipple this on or buff it however you want and it will give you that full coverage instantly. And this next one is very similar. It's also a kabuki brush, very tightly packed synthetic bristles, but it's a little bit smaller and it's more dome shaped. So I find this is great for cream contouring, and also with foundation. Like I have no problem using this for cream contour, but if you wanted to get like a more specific area, like you wanted to keep the contour really nice and tight where the hollows of your cheeks are, then I would definitely go for this one. So the next brush I'm going to talk about is this small little kabuki brush. It's very similar to those other foundation brushes. I mean, you could use this as a foundation brush. It's just really small, so you're not going to cover a lot of area quickly. But this is great for the under eyes, blending out your highlight in the forehead, chin, and even using it to put on your concealer over your eyelids or your eye primer, whatever it is. This is great for that because it's dense enough that it will give you that nice flawless coverage with minimal effort. It also will disperse the product very evenly. I generally use this brush on the days where I'm not using my beauty blender to blend out concealer. For example, if I'm using this concealer, this is the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer. It's more of like a pot thicker consistency. It's almost done, but I'll swirl this brush in here directly and then start to pat this on under my eyes or the areas that I want to highlight. This sort of brush is also great for covering up blemishes with your concealer because you can really lightly just tap over the breakout or the blemish, whatever you're trying to conceal. So moving on to the brushes that are used for powders. I have a few here. I'm going to start with this big fluffy brush. This is also synthetic. It's very fluffy. As you can see, it's not too tightly packed. And this is what I use to put on bronzer with, especially for products that you want to sweep in a larger area of your face, such as bronzer or even blush. And since the bristles are not packed so tightly, you're not going to get a lot of product that comes off onto your skin all at once. You can really build up bronzers and blushes with fluffy brushes like this. And especially because I've been doing cream contour lately, I don't like to go in heavy with a bronzer. I kind of just like to sweep a small amount over it just to set that contour in place, but I don't need a ton of color payoff. So this is the kind of bronzing brush I've been using lately. And on the days that I'm not doing cream contour or I'm using an actual powder contour and I want to concentrate that powder on a smaller part of my face, then I'll use a smaller brush like this, kind of dome shaped at the top. It tapers in at the sides. So if you hold it sideways like this up to the hollows of your cheeks, you can get right into that hollow. And it's dense enough where you're going to get a good amount of color payoff, but you don't have to worry about applying too much product at once, not being able to blend it out. There are also other brushes. A lot of people will, if you buy like a makeup set, you'll get a brush like this. It's like an angled brush. And this one is also pretty fluffy. This sort of brush is perfect for contouring as well. It's shaped in a way where it will really hug your cheekbones. Some people use it with the point facing upwards like this. I generally always use the point facing downwards, but you can get right into the hollows of the cheeks. So this is great as well. I just don't find myself using it that often, but I do know that these brushes are very popular in a lot of makeup sets and you might not know what they're used for. So this brush is, it's a Luxie brush, but it says it's a precision foundation brush. I've never used this for foundation, but I do use it to wipe away any excess product right under my eyes, like a translucent powder. It's super fluffy and it's very light. So if I use this brush to just lightly sweep it away, then I know that the products underneath are going to stay in place. So this brush is a blush brush. I know it has that exact same shape as the other contour contour brush I was showing you. So if I turn it over on its side, you can see that this guy is a lot fluffier and covers a lot more area, whereas this guy, you can keep it nice and tight, like into the hollows of your cheeks, for example. I love it because it is really soft, really fluffy, but it's dense enough where I can pack on a good bit of color without having to go over it too much, because I do like having my blush show up. I think it's very important to any makeup look, so I like to go in with a medium density brush for blush. That rhymed. Alright, so this brush is a big fluffy brush. It's super fluffy, not tightly packed at all. This is just what I'll use for all over powder. This guy usually stays very clean, like there's no product on it. I don't go into any product with this. I keep this guy clean just so that I can use it to sweep over the whole face afterwards, like if I'm blending in the blush, the bronzer, the highlight all together, just to make sure there's no harsh lines. So I'll just really lightly go over the whole face with this brush with nothing on it, and it's just got that perfect density where it won't disturb any of the product. It'll just kind of help blend everything together. So this guy is great for that. So there are so many different highlighting brushes on the market right now. A lot of people I know will use like a eyeshadow brush like this, like a big fluffy eyeshadow brush. A lot of people use fan brushes like these, and some people will use like a denser little synthetic brush like this. Like ABH makes a few that are paddle shaped like this. Lately I have been using this guy. This is actually a foundation brush that I got in the kit, but it works perfect for highlighting because it's not too dense and it is really soft and smooth, so it doesn't leave like that line of demarcation of like where you put that highlighter. I never have that problem. I like using this more than these fan brushes because I can be a little bit more precise with where I put my highlighter. I usually don't like to put highlighter like all over my face, just on like certain strategic points, you know what I mean? So this brush is like my ideal highlighting brush. It's where I can put the highlight exactly where I want it to be and still get a lot of color payoff. This is the one. This one is great for highlighting as well. It just covers a lot of areas. So what I will do with this brush sometimes is use it as a bronzer brush or a contour brush, like especially if I have a lot of cream contours on my face. So I'll just really lightly swirl my bronzer in here, and then I'll just kind of lightly go over all those areas. And I just find the tip of this brush actually fits into the hollows of your cheeks really nice and doesn't deposit too much color, so it's perfect for just like doing that extra little bit of chiseling. If you do like that line down the bridge of your nose and the exclamation point, obviously you can't do it with this brush, so I do have a special tiny little detailing brush that I'll use for that. Alright, so we're going to move on to the eye brushes now. This is a little detailing brush I was telling you about. It is perfect for getting that little exclamation point right here and doing the line. I'll also use this to highlight the inner corners of my eyes because I always do have a light shimmery shade on here as well. I don't have to worry about cleaning it all the time. I can use it for both the nose highlight and the inner corner highlight. Okay, so the first brushes that I'm going to talk about are blending brushes. These are the most important brushes in your set. So if you're having a hard time with eyeshadow, I would strongly recommend investing in some brushes. They don't have to be expensive brushes, but you gotta be able to have a set of specifically designed blending brushes. These blending brushes are brushes that are not too tightly packed. They are really soft and fluffy, and they're going to disperse the product evenly and not too much at once. You know, sometimes you'll dip your brush into some eyeshadow, you'll put it on your eye, and you'll have like this like big patch of where the eyeshadow is. That's most likely because you used a packing brush and not a blending brush. So these are my ride or die blending brushes that I need to use in every makeup look. Whenever I'm doing makeup on myself, when I'm doing makeup on a client, I always have these brushes ready because I know I will be using all of them. So this brush of mine will stay clean all the time. I'd never dip into any product with this. This is my clean blending brush. I'll use this brush in between eyeshadow shades and steps to make sure I'm blending it out before I go in with the next step. I also use this at the end just to like soften up any lines out here. It's quite a large brush and it's really fluffy and soft, so it's perfect for blending out larger areas on your eyes, such as your upper crease area up to your brow bone. So this next brush is my transition shade brush. It is also a fluffy synthetic hair brush. The bristles are very flexible, they're not too stiff, and that is the main thing that you want when you're using blending brushes. It's not going to put on too much product and it's not going to give you a hard time blending it out, and it's a perfect size for fitting right in the upper crease area. This is my go-to. This is the brush that I will start with for my transition shade. These three here are my like crease shade brushes. So these brushes are smaller and they fit perfect in the crease, and they're a little bit more dense so that you can get a more defined crease. you're usually going in with a darker color in the crease and you want the pigment to be darker there. So these brushes are perfect for that. But this guy is perfect for the crease because he is bigger than the other two that I have here, but he does have that little tapered end here, so it fits perfectly right in the crease and it can give you that precise line. These two are very similar in shape. They are both medium density as well. They're just smaller, but the bristles are packed slightly tighter. And then usually I'll go in with the darkest color. So for example, if I'm doing like a black smoky eye, I would start with a light brown here, and then in the crease I'd go with a medium brown with these two denser brushes. And then when it was time to go with the black, I would grab a brush like this. He is a longer brush, also synthetic. I'm sorry I didn't wash it for you guys. I was using it today and I didn't want to wash it and get it wet, and then I'd have to wait for it to dry. Yada, yada, yada. Longer brush, but slim. There's a pointed little tip here, and the bristles are very flexible because of how long the bristles are. This guy is perfect for getting that like precise crease socket line. Like you can feel it running back and forth into the crease, so this is why I love this brush. All right, next I'm going to talk about this dome for packing on colors, darker colors in the outer V, inner corner, like if I was doing a halo eye or something like that. I love using a brush like this. This is actually a dual-ended brush that came with my Smashbox Full Exposure palette. A small little dome-shaped brush, but it's really perfect for just getting a lot of color payoff. So whatever color I dip this into and I pack this in my outer V, that color is there. It's going to be vibrant, pigmented, and then I can use either this to blend it out, or I will use this smaller precision brush that I was just talking about, because it can really get the corners of the eyes very easily without blending the color out too far. But I have a ton of concealer brushes, or like flat synthetic shader brushes, but I've narrowed it down to a few different sizes that I tend to gravitate towards because of my eye shape. So the first brush is right here. This is a small concealer brush. It's a flat synthetic concealer brush. So I also have this guy to show as an example. This guy isn't as great at packing on like shimmer shades or even concealers, just because of the hairs. Compared to like a natural hairbrush, you could feel a little bit more texture in a natural hairbrush. So this guy I will use to cut the crease. Because the bristles are short, it's a very dense brush. It's not gonna slide around too much. Wherever you put this brush down, that's exactly where the color is gonna be. So this is the kind of brush I'll use to carve out my brows and for cutting the crease. Next, I have these two brushes. They serve the same purpose for me, but I always have a few on hand in case I'm dipping into a few different colors for the lid or for the brow bone. So they are also flat synthetic shader brushes. They're just a little bit bigger than the concealer brush. This is the concealer brush, and these are the two lid brushes that I will use. These are great for packing on lid colors. It doesn't matter if it's a matte, doesn't matter if it is a shimmer. I do think that these pack on lid shades a lot better than a natural hair brush. Just because I feel like lid colors are supposed to be packed on, you want them to be most vibrant for most looks. Whether or not it's like a really light color or a really dark color, you want the most color payoff on the lid, right? Especially for shimmers, you'll notice that when you're using a shimmery shade and you want to wet the brush, whatever it is, these synthetic brushes work the best. Alright, so we are almost done. Next we just have our detail brushes for the eyes. So I have a few here. These are two pencil brushes. These are great for the lower lash line. So they're fluffy enough, but they still have that point. So you can focus the darkest color right on the tip of this brush, bring it nice and close to your lash line, and then you can use kind of like the side of the brush to blend it out and smoke it out. And I'll also use a natural hair brush like this to smoke out the lower lash line. I just think that it's fluffy because it's like a natural hair brush. It doesn't apply too much product at once, and I don't know, I just think it's perfect for blending out the lower lash line, so I always use this. Alright guys, I know that was a ton of brushes that I just talked about, and you don't need all of them. I tried to show different options. You don't need 2 or 3 brushes for each step the way I do, but even having that one blending brush, that one crease brush, that one concealer brush, I think it makes all the difference in the world in how your shadows will appear and even how the colors will appear. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys found this video useful, and if you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.